Okay.
Howdy, howdy.
Oh,
I botched the intro, guys. That's okay. We don't need the intro. We'll do the intro next time. Hey, Jim
nice.
Strange. I'm here with the one and only Jason Garlock, the
Hello.
permanent guest of the Jim Strange TV show. And here for the first time is Megiddo Iscariot. And tonight we are talking about the much loved, much hated, all time classic, some would say, Howard the Duck. And when did you guys first see Howard the Duck?
For me, it was a fourth grade in class, in the classroom. We had a substitute teacher, and he was like this old man who sold this plastic stuff called GIMP to make friendship bracelets out of. This is like 1986, so it was just dropped. And yeah, it was probably he probably should not have shown that in a fourth grade class, but it was rated PG, so whatever.
How about you, Megiddo?
Man, it's been so long since the first time. I want to say it was just a few years after release because I was a kid during the 80s.
Yeah,
so.
I was the same. I was a kid when I saw it, and as a kid, I thought it was sweet. I didn't, it was had a scary monster. It had a duck. It had all you would want in a movie as a kid,
including duck nipples.
Well, I don't know if I wanted those as a kid, but I'm sure some kids wanted that. But and
sure
they were there.
People who are adults now who do too.
Yeah, and they are now some interesting individuals, I imagine.
Yes.
All right. George Lucas presents. What was George Lucas's involvement in this, guys? Do you have any idea?
If I remember correctly, he was the executive producer, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I think he disowned it directly afterwards.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, that's a shame that he would do such a thing. The director Willard Huyck and Gloria Katz, and they didn't do a whole lot of other movies. They did Messiah of Evil, which kind of looks like a classic horror movie. French Postcards. That looks like some kind of like romantic comedy or something. Garlock, does that sound familiar to you at all?
No idea.
I think I've seen
no
it.
idea.
No.
I don't know too much about these guys.
It looks like one of
American Graffiti.
Maybe yeah, he wrote American Graffiti. He was a he was a script doctor in Star Wars, so he has a bit of a pedigree. He was a writer in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, which there's a nice little Easter egg in this movie.
That's a
pretty
good pedigree right there.
It sounds like he was on his way to the top, and then he made Howard the Duck, and that's why no one's ever heard of him. Does that sound about right?
Which is kind of sad because so many people give it crap, but Howard the Duck was actually a pretty damn good movie.
It's well done. It's well done.
I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it too. It has some problems that I think we can get into at the end. Mainly, I don't understand who it was for.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Yeah, it was like a kid's movie, but like it's loaded like with a lot of weird innuendo, a lot of if you think about it too much, a little disturbing innuendo. There's a scary monster in it.
Very scary monster,
and a ton of adult humor.
Maybe the ultimate, one of the greatest scary movie monsters ever. Actually, I think it was pretty good.
Oh yeah,
it was pretty good. And
I mean, especially for its time, it was.
Yeah, that was
up. I'd say the Dark Overlord.
Wasn't that a Lucas effect? Wasn't that Lucas Effects who did that?
Yeah,
I would assume so.
Yeah, it was ILM.
Okay, so
they pretty much did everything like at that point, almost like Star Trek movies and.
Oh yeah,
nice.
Which is kind of weird, like the Star Wars effects team doing Star Trek movies, but they were pretty much the effects team for big budget blockbusters, which this was supposed to be.
Right. It's kind of a
laid an egg.
It was certainly big budget. I can't remember how much exactly, but they.
That's why we have you here, Garlock. Okay,
yes,
so the movie starts off. Oh, before we get going, let's see your prop. Let's see what you got.
All right, so I got.
Yeah, let's see that.
The DVD.
Nice.
Special edition, only edition, I think. And
nice.
Just for S's and G's, I have couple issues of the magazine, not the comic book, but
Oh,
the magazine. Black
And-
and
and you
white, more adult oriented with some. Let's see, there's one.
oh
I don't know
man.
if that's clear because my window's really small and I can't see anything. There's another one.
Yeah, there we go.
And
Yeah.
Wow.
here's one that actually sort of comes up in the movie. That's kind of cool right there. I don't know if
Play
you see it
duck.
'cause
Oh
glare.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we
And
can't show it on the stream, Garlock, but you showed me some images from that were pretty non-PG. It seems like it's a very it's kind of a
Yeah,
risque
we see,
character.
Yeah, just in the first issue at the very end, we see Bev teats out in bed with Howard.
All right. You know, we
So
get a
they
little
have-
bit of that in the movie.
Obvious interspecies sexual relationship, which is hinted at in the movie. Certainly,
Thankfully,
after the credits.
only hinted at.
Yes, thank
Yeah.
you.
But I'm
by the
sure
way, I
there's
just
a
got a
lot of that
reminder.
going on, some
Yeah.
feather plucking after the credits.
Yes. I just actually got a reminder. The budget for Howard the Duck was $37 million, which these days ain't that much, but 80s movie, that's actually pretty good.
That's like
Yeah.
Avengers budget in 80s speak. That's
Yeah.
like and it shows. It looks great. It looks great.
Oh, yeah.
It was the very first Marvel theatrical movie.
Yep. Well, the first
Okay.
one that had any kind of following.
So the movie starts off, and we get a nice shot of a city, and it's kind of zooming in. We see an apartment, and there's this kind of noir soundtrack, and surprise, surprise, the photos on the walls are all ducks. And he hangs up his umbrella. Howard does, and we got some duck movie posters, and one of them was it's a play off of Indiana Jones. It's Indiana Drake, Breeders of the Lost Stork. Which am I wrong? Does that sound like it's pornographic to you guys? Like maybe
Oh, definitely.
I think it was meant to be mainstream, like an actual mainstream movie, but yeah, it definitely sounds like it could be a porn
the title
parody.
sounds pornographic.
But like, I think they were just stretching for like any duck puns they could find for any of these movie posters or pretty much anything that's shown in Duck World or mentioned about Duck World. Because I guess everybody's last name is Duck, right?
Well, it's supposed to be like a mirror of our universe because if you look at the pictures of his parents, they're like hippies. So
Yeah.
they must have had some kind of hippie revolution in this world also.
But it still has this sort of absurdist sort of parody quality to it. Like
It's true, very true.
It has
it's like
some
it's
similarities.
a funny Animal Planet.
It
And,
kind of reminds me a little bit of UHF. A little bit in terms of the
UHF.
parody quality.
Yeah, I kind of the '80s pastiche kind of parody thing going on.
Yeah.
UHF is
he's
a
got-
masterpiece.
He's got a love letter from Michelle, and he also has a message on his machine from Wendy, who had a dream about him. So we're getting that Howard is a bit of a womanizer or a
He's a chick magnet. I saved that one up. Yeah,
A Gosling
He's a chick magnet.
magnet. Or no, wait, I guess ducks are just chicks.
and on the wall there's a big photo of Howard and the Heartbreakers. So Howard's like a kind of a
Yes.
washed up musician. He's kind of a rock and roll guy, but now he's schlubbing it now.
And that doesn't come up much until like midway through the movie. They finally, well, like he kind of hints at it when he first meets, but yeah, it doesn't really resonate that much in the movie. Other than
Not till
him
the
playing
end.
some piano. Yeah.
But you know,
It's a nice subtext. It makes it more relatable to the rockers in the audience, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I think that's a
he tried to
plus.
follow his dream and he fell on his face, and now he's just living in like a work-a-day punch clock Joe Sixpack life, which he hates.
Which is kind of a nice reflection on society, especially at the time, because you had so many people who were just 9-to-5 office workers that were just bored with their lives, but they had an exciting past.
All right. So Howard has the issue of Play Duck, and he says, "Who did they interview this month? because that's the that was the gag with Playboy. Then the room starts
Ready
shaking.
for the interviews.
Oh no, it's a quake! And Howard the Duck, he's just kind of sucked, like by a tractor beam into space, and he flies by it through a wall, and there's a naked duck with her boobs out, and it's pretty scandalous for a PG movie, I would say.
Yeah, the aforementioned duck nipples.
Yeah, he flies by, I believe, Club Mallard, and into a weird hole in the sky. And as a kid, this made perfect sense. I didn't really think about it too much.
Yeah,
And
same.
and we get this
And he's
voiceover.
screaming through space. The tunnel, the tractor beam, the tunnel thing, it went for a while from his planet. Then he was just like tumbling through like naked space, and he was screaming in space. And then he went through the tunnel that was in the Earth end, and then landed very hard, and apparently like didn't die because he just literally fell from the sky like David Bowie or something.
Yeah, he's tough.
Yeah.
We get this while he's flying through the cube in the beginning. It kind of reminds me of the Kryptonian prisons in Superman 2.
It does have a similarity there.
We get this voiceover. The cosmos, countless worlds upon worlds without end. In these galaxies, every possible reality exists, and it goes on and on. And in the beginning, there is Howard the Duck. It's very, very. They're laying it on thick. They're laying it on thick here. He, as I said, he falls out of space. He flies through a sign. He bounces off a water tower, and he lands on a chair in an alleyway. So he's fine because the chair is there. Otherwise, he might have been hurt.
Yeah.
He's surrounded by this
Chair
gang. There's this gang. They're dressed up for fetish night, and he says, "I'm a dead duck." And this heavy metal song starts. It is Hunger City by Dolby's Cube, featuring Leah Thompson and Cherry Bomb. And Thomas Dolby wrote this song, and most people know him for "She Blinded Me with Science." He also did the Toys soundtrack. He's a very prolific movie soundtrack guy. We have here Leah Thompson, who was Lorraine McFly from Back to the Future, and she's performing behind a chain link fence, and the kind of wild and crazy concert you only really see in 80s and 90s movies.
It's pretty much a standard. It's in every. If you got a bar in an 80s movie, it's the chain link fence is right there.
It's out of control.
Save money on bouncers. You know, like
that's
if
true.
You have a
That's
fence
true.
between you and the audience, you don't have to hire like those pit guys who like catch the kids. It's pretty cool. I'd go to that club.
Yeah, totally, dude. I would rock out there. There's this guy like in a suit, and I think he's supposed to be like some kind of nerd. And the gang they hand Howard off to the nerd guy, and they say, "We finally found you a date," to this guy. Just kind of an odd thing to say.
Kind of look like Egon a little.
Yeah, the very classic 80s. That was like a thing in the 80s. Every movie had a nerd or two.
Big hair and glasses.
But the nerds were never really nerdy enough to not be part of society. You know, they weren't ostracized. They were just the lowest in that group.
He was at the club. He's at the party.
Yeah.
You know, he was getting goofed on, but they let him in. Hey, that costume don't fool me. No kids allowed. And Howard gets thrown out, and the nerd guy is back. He says, "Hey, wait a minute, that's my date." And yeah, so that nerd maybe had some things going on. They throw him out, and he lands on some bag lady stuff, and she beats him up, and he runs away, and he's almost hit by a truck. And then he bumps into a couple making out, and he was like, "Oh, I wasn't trying anything honest." And they swing a sign at him. Then he's almost run over by Satan sluts, who are this gang of it looks like they're cross dressers, some same sex attractive ladies, some just a Satan sluts that they almost run him over, and then he gets tossed into a barrel. So he is already having an action packed adventure, and he's only been here for like 2 minutes.
And he's experienced a lot of the dregs of human society already at this point.
He says, "Talk about a rotten day."
80s cliches.
Yes.
And he seems mostly inconvenienced, like he's not really you think he'd be traumatized by this, but he's just like, what a rotten day, I'm in a barrel, and he just goes to sleep in the barrel. And Leah Thompson is walking home, and she is accosted by street punks, and they wake up Howard, and then she starts fighting, and she knocks one of them out, and then Howard jumps out of the barrel, and he says, "No more Mr. Nice Duck." Does he say that, or did I just write that down? But he does say,
right.
No, I think that's what he said.
"Oh, okay, okay." I didn't put quotes around it. Let the female creature go. Every duck has his limits, and you scum have stepped over the line. He's very chivalrous. He's like he doesn't know where he is, but he knows wrong when he sees it.
And not only is he chivalrous, he's chivalrous to a completely different species.
Yeah, he's a hero. He's a hero.
Well, he likes girls. Of apparently,
That's
whatever
true.
species.
That's true.
So
Well, he's a
it was
ladies'
probably-
man.
Yeah.
Somebody remarks, "I've been doing too much toot." To which Howard replies,
Cocaine
"No one
was big
laughs
in
at
the
him."
80s.
That's true. No one laughs at a master of quack fu. And he kind of starts going on Mr. Miyagi on everybody, and he starts beating him up. He breaks a stick over one of them. Beverly's fighting too. She's holding her own.
Yep.
Howard starts breaking some guy's finger, and he calls him Mr. Zitz, because that was like an '80s thing. You make fun of somebody's zits in the '80s because it was much more.
I remember that. I don't even recall the guy actually having zits. So it's just kind of.
Yeah, after rewatching it, I don't think that he did. I think it was just kind of a generic 80s insult, really.
Yeah.
And Quack Fu was in the comic books. That's one of
Yes.
the issues I do have. Like number 3, I think it's the Quack Fu issue.
Nice. He says this is obviously no place for an intelligent, sensitive duck, and because that's kind of how he views himself. Oh, right. He says, "Where am I?" And she says, "Cleveland." That's a weird name for this planet. The planet's called Earth, and I think I'm obviously in some kind of terrible.
Cleveland.
Cleveland.
She thinks she's in a nightmare. It appears like, did you catch this, Jason? She had a Misfit sticker on her guitar case. That was a kind of a nice little touch.
I did catch that. I thought that was pretty cool.
I actually didn't remember that, but that's
Because obviously she's hardcore punk rock.
And this is like what, 86 or so. So if you're in the Misfits back then, you're pretty intense into the punk world, I imagine.
Yeah, they were pretty cult, I guess, back then. Yeah, they weren't really hot topic yet.
They're now in the rain. Thomas Dolby is here. He's performing "Don't Turn Away." It's kind of a romantic song. And he says, "Hey, if I had someplace to go, I wouldn't be in Cleveland," as we noted. And he starts going with her, and he starts making like Donald Duck noises for no apparent reason, because that's what ducks do, I guess. He goes back to her place, and it's a dump. And he says, "Nice place. You pay to live here?" She says, "It's cheap. The manager of my band found it for me." And he says, "I suggest you get a new manager." A little bit of foreshadowing here.
It seemed
Also,
to have a whole lot of square footage, though.
Yeah,
like if she just
that's-
cleaned it up and put nice shit in there, it seemed like a nice little loft type place.
It's kind of like Al Bundy's house is like a McMansion, basically. It would probably go for like $400,000 in Portland, but he's he's poor. He has no food.
Yeah.
The 80s were
Goes
just a more
towards a mortgage.
it was just a more prosperous time. Everybody was doing pretty good, I guess. Then she says she can't get out of a contract. He won't let us out, and the sleazoid won't even pay me the money he owes us. And
It's a bad contract.
yeah,
You know.
yeah, she's getting ripped off.
Seems like that would be a breach of contract if he's not paying her, but she's kind of simple, I think, a little bit.
Yeah. She has a heart of gold, though.
Not quite impaired, but simple.
She says, "Want something to eat or drink? Milk? I can put it in a bowl." And Howard's like, "Miss, I don't drink out of a bowl. You got a beer?" Because whoa, man, I'm not some pet. I'm a real dude.
the
right.
anthropomorphization, that is kind of the key point where they really point out he's not an animal. He is just like a human being.
Well, just in case you don't get it, that they really drive it home. She says, "I've never had any pets or anything."
Yeah.
She talks about cleaning them up after them. She's never cleaned their poo-poos. To which Howard says, "I'll try to be careful."
And the fact that he's wearing clothes.
He sits. Yeah, go ahead, Megiddo.
I was going to say one thing that I always thought was interesting, both in the comics and in the movie. Unlike a lot of other duck characters that you see in cartoons and in other popular culture, he wears pants. Donald Duck, Daffy Duck, pretty much any of the animated animals that you see almost never wear pants, or they wear suspenders like Mickey Mouse. But he wears full-on clothes. He's got pants, he's got shoes, everything. So that was kind of a big difference for it, and that really gives the the humanization of animals. It gives it more structure because he actually is more established as a human-like character rather than just being a cartoon duck.
Nice.
One thing interesting about the pants wearing is that in the comics, Disney actually sued Marvel because Howard too closely resembled Donald Duck.
Yep.
So part of the provisions was that Howard had to wear pants in the comics because originally he didn't. But for the movie and pretty much most of the comics history, as far as I know, he's kind of just your Joe six-pack, workaday schlub, everyman character that just happens to be a duck trapped in a world he never made.
That is some golden trivia there, Jason. That really wraps up the duck with pants.
Yeah.
Okay, he sits down in a chair and starts shaking, and he's like, "Oh no, not again!" Because he has some kind of PTSD because he just got sucked through a wormhole. And it's just a big truck. It's just a big truck going by. And
would that really make your chair shake?
I guess in that kind of rotten place it would.
Yeah, if you're close enough and the roads aren't very good, you probably could have it, because I know even just sitting on a highway overpass, you can get pretty well shaken in your own car.
And he probably weighs about 70 pounds, so yeah.
Yeah.
He starts playing a little bit of piano, a little bit of foreshadowing, and he talks about how he went to med school. His parents wanted him to be a doctor, being a plastic surgeon, doing beak jobs and tail tucks. Because half the dialogue in this movie is all duck-related puns.
Oh yeah, I'd say more than half.
Yeah, probably. He educated himself on the streets. He wrote songs at night and construction work during the day. And people told him it was a pipe dream and to grow up. And he finally did, because last month he got a promising job. And he writes, "Hey, kitty." He writes commercials now.
He can't stay away.
We're talking about waterfowl. He's hungry.
"Hey, kitty." He tells us about a commercial he wrote. And she says, "Wow, Howard, sounds like you sold out," which is pretty, like, kind of the worst thing you could say to him,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially somebody who is in a punk band saying that to you.
Right. She's kind of
seems to have been crushed. Like, he's miserable.
Yeah, but she's still chasing the dream.
Yeah.
But Howard says, "Sometimes I still get this feeling there's some kind of special destiny waiting for me." And she says, "Well, there's no accidents in the universe. Maybe you're here for some greater purpose or cosmic cause." And he says he has no intentions. There's a lot of foreshadowing here.
Yes.
There's a lot of fate going on. He has no intention of being stranded here. Then he falls asleep. And then she walks over and starts playing with his hair. It's kind of odd. She puts a blanket on him. Then she starts going through his wallet. He is from Marshington, D.C., because he's a duck. Get it?
Another duck pun.
There's pictures of him with babes. There's his parents. There's a bunch of credit cards that all have duck names. There's a dollar bill with a duck on it. And there's this really gross crumpled up condom that's not in a case. It's just kind of like loose in his wallet.
That did
Oh,
stand out to
Howard.
me.
Yeah.
The whole just loose condom, no wrapper or anything, and
This guy's he's a wild duck.
Kind
Yeah,
of
she
belies
was
the PG kids movie aspect, you know. But
yeah, really
And
pushing on that.
She just says, "What am I going to do with you, Ducky?" She already has a pet name for him. And the camera pans out while she watches him asleep, and it is a very, very odd scene. It's very surreal, I guess, but but done straight, done like in blockbuster style. It's which kind of goes back to who was this movie for? Like all the dialogue is like DuckTales level, like duck puns, but then there's this
Yeah.
weird, but it's also full of weird innuendos, and it's an odd movie.
I do feel like the comics really relied on that as well, though. I think it was a pretty straight adaptation because the duck puns were there, especially when there was any interaction with the regular Marvel Universe characters. So if he ended up in 616 Universe Marvel, he was going to be making those duck puns. They were just there. And the borderline adult humor that's just going to be missed by the kids, that was there too. It was honestly Duckman was inspired by Howard the Duck.
Oh, okay.
I
It
can
was
see
a
that,
very-
totally.
Yeah, it was a very adult cartoon that just kind of came from the idea of Howard the Duck. And I mean, it went a little further than you're going to get with Howard the Duck because they have to worry about the comics code and all of that. But the show was very adult, and it kind of fit into its time slot, which was later in the evening.
So is Duckman kind of like
Raw.
a non? Is Duckman like a non-canon Howard the Duck sequel, I guess, in spirit?
Kind of. I would say it's definitely in the spirit of Howard the Duck.
Okay.
It is more adult. I will give it that, but it's really funny. I gotta say, anybody who hasn't really should.
Yeah, wasn't that George from Seinfeld as Duckman?
Yes. Yep. It was. I can't think of his name, but
Jason
yeah, George
Alexander.
Costanza. Yeah.
Jason Alexander. And
Yeah.
how many seasons did Duckman last for? Sorry to go off on a tangent here, but this is one of those tangent episodes.
It's worth it, and I think they actually managed to get 3 seasons.
Has there been
right.
talks of like an Adult Swim Duckman revival or
Not that I've heard of, unfortunately.
Because I didn't even think of Duckman. Duckman is kind of completely wiped from my memory banks until now. So
It was an interesting show because it was. I mean, it wasn't the best animation quality, obviously, but it was. The humor was there, and Jason Alexander, as we finally came up with, he did an amazing job. It was.
It sounds like maybe if you're doing a commercial endeavor artistically, you don't want to use a duck. Maybe that's the message here.
It might be, but I don't think it was really a failure so much as it had other things that beat it out.
I gotcha. It was just a golden era of animation and TV shows in the 90s.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes
Donald
sense.
Daffy are pretty popular.
Yeah.
I in their niche, I guess, but I guess if you want to expand upon that, maybe it's you don't want to go too far outside of the formula. Maybe that's the
No super adult stuff.
Well, one of the Howard the Duck comic books was actually mature readers in the Max line. It was written by Steve Gerber. We should probably mention the creator Steve Gerber. So yeah, that was really adult, like more so than the magazines here with the Bev teats.
So what the heck was I gonna say here?
We got a little
All right.
sidetracked.
Yeah, it's okay.
I always
think
sidetrack my teats.
It's all good, man. So she has him trapped in a bag now, and he's like, "Oh, this is humiliating. How dare you put me in a bag?" Bill is a scientist; he can help. And they walk by into an office of paleontology, and was it ichthyology, which is the zoology devoted
I think.
to the study of fish. And this is Tim Robbins, right?
Yep. A very
Okay.
young looking Tim Robbins.
Yeah, I didn't even recognize him. It was he immediately runs out to snitch on Howard. He runs into this other group of scientists and he's going to snitch on him. And he loses his nerve because he's so we know a few things about this guy. He's a little goofy. He wants to be famous. He wants to exploit Howard to some degree. But he's also not like, the bravest guy.
And he kind of feels like sort of an innocent, almost proto-antagonist. He's not evil. He's just a little bit self-serving.
Okay, yeah, he's a little goofy. He's not a bad guy. He's a bit of a spurg, as they call him these days.
Yep.
I would say that's very accurate. Yeah, he's a little bit spectrum-y.
He says, "This is amazing. A man's oldest fantasies cross a sea of stars. Look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. No, it's a duck." Kind of going back to the voiceover in the intro, where you take some kind of profound statement and then you just make it about a duck. That seems to be a lot of the humor in this movie.
It's a very lowbrow form of humor in a lot of cases, but it works because of the type of comedy.
Yeah, no, I'm not hating on it. It is what it is.
Definitely am not either.
Yeah, I was cool with the unending duck puns. Like,
yeah,
it's what it is.
It's what it was built for.
Yeah, absolutely. He starts talking to him like he's E.T., Tim Robbins, that is.
Yep.
He says, "Meet Howard, you duck, we be friends." And that doesn't get over very well. So he starts talking like Howard, I'm sorry, like Daffy Duck. He does the duck voice.
Well, it was more Donald, really.
Yeah, more
Daffy
Donald.
was like the.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
can't really do Donald like something like that,
That's actually better than I can
can't
do.
talk. Yeah.
That's why you guys are
Daffy
here,
just
because
has
I can't. You're right. I'm mixing up my. There's so many ducks we're talking about tonight, of the cartoon variety, that I'm really getting them all mixed up. Tim Robbins, he's a major dweeb, and he starts testing Howard for superpowers. Howard, quit holding out. I want you to concentrate and read my mind.
And he has nothing.
No. So Howard starts saying they know I'm a phony. They know I'm a yo-yo, and he's kind of playing mind games with Tim Robbins. They're leaving through a museum, and Tim Robbins says, "Look out, Darwin! Look out, Einstein! Hello, Nobel Prize!" And they are by a very conveniently placed evolutionary ladder, with a bunch of like monkey, caveman, human kind of your usual Darwinistic shtick.
And this was actually one of the scenes that I had to take a pause at and try to think, is this actually up there? Because obviously this is a museum of natural history, but this Darwin evolution chain that they're showing, why would they have a alternate worlds, duck worlds evolutionary chain when this was an unknown character? So this is, to me, I think it was imaginary, but
yeah, I caught on to that too. It was just kind of out. It was just weird. Like, was that in Tim Robbins' head, or was it maybe?
Yeah, it must have been
duck and see how it went out. Like, it was kind of out there.
We get a line from Howard. He says, "Geez, you're all hairless apes. That's really disgusting." To kind of show that he's just as off. Yeah, he is as off put by us as we are by him. Okay.
He's
all of a sudden, Tim Robbins has to hide because the other doctors want him to do some menial tasks. And it turns out he's just a lab assistant. He's not even really a scientist. He's just some schlub.
I had actually forgotten about that until I rewatched it earlier in the week. But that's really fitting with what we're already looking at here. We're looking at our main character. He's a failure for most of his life.
Mm-hmm.
And then our damsel in distress, she's been taken advantage of for all of her music career. And then we get number 3, we've got our scientist who is just a lab assistant. And it actually doesn't stop there. I mean, as we discover as we go further down the road, even
it's kind of like a whole
antagonist.
It's like a whole team of losers, kind of.
Yeah.
William Axel Young says FJJDNF blah blah something or other.
That's my nephew. How you doing, buddy? Shout out to my nephew Axel. He told me to.
How's it going, Axel? Thanks for coming, Axel.
Howdy, Axel.
Thank you, sir. All right.
Apparently, typing not his big thing yet, but thanks for watching, Axel.
There we go. Shout me out. Oh, you're shouted out, Axel. Thanks for coming. All right. He says it's just a temporary job until he can get his own museum, because apparently, when you become a real scientist, they just give you a museum. It's like a doctor's office or something.
I mean, that's the way you go.
That was kind of what I inferred from that line. Yeah, he expected to just get a museum.
He doesn't quite understand his own trade he wants to be in. She apologizes to Howard. She apologizes because Tim Robbins is a bit of a bozo, and he makes a remark about being given an IQ test by a janitor. He's outside by an exhibit. A bunch of kids run up to see it because they think he's some kind of animatronic duck. And he says, "Bug off, mutants!" And they go, "Oh no, the duck told us off," and they run away. He's in a bed.
3 foot nothing duck.
There's a lot of him like boogabooing all the hairless apes and scaring the crap out of them. Just they look at him, they just jump. Little guy, you know.
He's a duck with an attitude. He's
And let's be fair. I mean, with the animatronics that were used for the character, if you saw something like that with those crazy features talking to you out in public, I'd probably be a little scared too.
Yeah. He tells Cherry Bomb. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, the costume gets a lot of grief from critics, but like rewatching it, like I mean, he has like eye movements and kind of can curl his beak. Yeah, I mean,
it kind of reminded me of the first Ninja Turtles movie, which I thought looked pretty good for the time too.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Well, did Lucas do the effects for Ninja Turtles in the first one?
I think it was Henson.
I don't think so. Yeah, It was Jim Henson.
Company. I don't think
practical effects back then were just a lot better. That was kind of just a jam back then. So he tells the chick to scram, and she says, "So long, Ducky." And he's like, "Don't shed any tears over me, Toots." Who needs you? I don't need anybody. He's trying to think of a plan. He needs food, shelter, a job. He goes to the unemployment office where he is accosted by the caseworker. And she's like, "Oh, the psycho cases."
Really like aggressive towards him.
Yeah.
Well, she gets all the psycho cases and the phonies and the outlandish. And she's like, "You think about looking controversial, you're never going to find a job." She calls him a grifter and a scam artist. So he's this is rough, man. This is they don't want any grifters, you know, just sucking off the state here. She says she has a job for him, and he tries to bite the roses that are on her butt because she has like roses on her dress because he's a duck. It is kind of odd. It's an odd gag.
Yeah, ducks apparently like to bite people in the keister.
I would have thought more geese, but that still works.
He gets a job at this weird jacuzzi sex place.
I call it a brothel.
Yeah.
He's basically a brothel. We're back this way now.
Weird.
All right. Some gross guy calls him a creepy little dude. Tells him he needs something fixed, and he chucks him into a hot tub while a couple are kind of going at it in the corner. And he says, "I need that creepy little dude in here to clean this stuff up." And
that was a weird.
Howard pushes the guy into it looks like this jacuzzi is full of poo. Is that what's going on?
I think it was a mud
bath.
Oh, okay. Thanks, guys.
But I mean, good call there. Maybe it was poo. You
Like me, I thought maybe like a toilet line had backed up and was backing into the jacuzzi, but a mud bath
Yeah,
makes
I
more
mean,
sense.
you too.
That is some deep trivia. Maybe somebody knows.
Yeah, because
Maybe
as I thought, it was kind of like a spa sort of thing, not just
Okay.
a bathhouse, but a spa. Because you saw a few times where it kind of looked like they were going to be doing the sauna treatments and all of the helpful there.
Oh, okay. I just thought it was a weird sex place, but that makes more sense.
And this sequence of events goes by like really quick. It just seems to be like he goes from trying to get a job to having a job to quitting his job, and it's all like supposed to be, I guess, in a day or something. Like
it kind of feels like
really weird.
It feels like it could have been its own movie of him trying to get a job.
Yeah.
But they don't dwell on it too much. They get right back to the action.
And narratively, they weren't very clear on that. I don't think that it was a single day, but they never did anything to make it feel like it was more than one day. It really felt like he got hired and then quit within the same night.
Because he still didn't have a place to live or anything.
I don't know. There might be a director's cut, and
where he's like a cab driver for a day, or maybe he's making French fries.
I love it if there were a Howard the Duck director's cut. Like, I don't even know if this thing has deleted scenes or anything. No. Nope.
Yeah, I just watched it online. So
great. I'd watch an entire Howard the Cab Driver movie. Absolutely.
Yeah. Howard is dejected, and he's walking the streets alone now, and he's waiting for the bus. And a bunch of people are like, "That's a duck! That's a duck man!" And he looks behind him. There's this big bunch of TVs in the store. The news is showing a show for duck hunters, and he's like, "Oh no, duck hunters! Duck hunting season has officially opened. We've doubled the amount of ducks that can be shot for duck hunting season." Then there's a Duckaroni commercial showing a duck being cooked, and then there's a cartoon of Daffy Duck being killed. And
all further blurring that humanoid duck and just animal duck line, because they're conflating the completely alien species that grew from a duck with just ducks. And it's interesting because if you think about it, go back and look at the idea of monkeys and the fact that chimpanzees, we still keep them in zoos. They're still running around in the wild. But then there's us, who descended from chimpanzee, or not chimpanzees, but a common ancestor of apes in terms of scientific theory. So why would he be so scared? And obviously later
it'd be like if you and I went to a planet full of ducks and they like ate cavemen. If cavemen existed in this world and they ate them, I guess.
They made cartoons about cavemen getting squashed. Well, I guess we have Captain Caveman, so okay.
Yeah.
They just show Captain Caveman all day.
He has a panic attack and he runs off to an abandoned space. And he's at the chair in the alley at the start. And the Cherry Bomb are performing. And they're singing "Don't Turn Away," which I believe Dolby sang earlier, but now she's singing it. And Howard hears her sing, and he's mesmerized. And the chick's like, "This is way too depressing." And she stops the song halfway, and they go to like this kind of upbeat, kind of like a Go-Go's kind of number. The song is called "It Don't Come Cheap." All right.
Sorry about that.
No problem, man. We see some sleazebag, and he's giving money for a beer, and he's like, "When Bodacious Beverly stops holding out on me, inviting me up to her place, we're gonna do a little career manipulation." He's kind of insinuating that he's going to make her sleep with him for career advancement. Howard is there. He does not like it, and he doesn't like how he's talking about Beverly, and he demands that they give him her money. And "I want the girl's money. Is this going to be easy or is this going to be trouble?" And some guy grabs Howard and they do the old Superman, the was it Superman 3? Yeah, it was kind of a thing. You throw him up the bar, and he goes flying up the bar.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was a pretty classic moment right there. Honestly, this to me was one of the best sequences of events that really established not just his capabilities, but his character.
Yeah, he's a hero, man. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say earlier, we saw him kind of rise up and fight the bad guys. But here he shows not just the bravery, but he also shows a really intense capability because he takes on so many all at once, and he doesn't need any back.
Quack foo, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he quack foos everybody.
Quack foo.
Yeah. Well, he says, "All right, now it's my turn," and he breaks the bottle that the weird bartender gives him. Some guy tries to stab him, but he moves and he turns the tables, and he has the knife. Was it a knife? And he stabs it through the guy. He has like an earring, and he kind of ties him to the bar.
Yeah,
and he says, "Yeah."
I was going to say, you just brought up something that reminded me of early in the movie. I should have mentioned it earlier on, but it didn't pop in my head. But it was something I was noticing when we first start watching it. Look at the bottles of beer that he gets, the Budweisers. They're they're an interesting shape. They kind of go up like this, and then they taper a little bit. They aren't the standard bottles that you get not that much longer. As soon as he gets as soon as he gets to human Earth, the bottles are our normal bottles, but his are those strange. I know we've actually had real bottles that look like that, but they didn't exist at that time. So they actually made different bottles for Duck World.
Interesting. Well, because of Duck Anatomy, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
He says, you are no longer their manager. And then he says that he has space rabies. One bite and it's agonizing death in 15 seconds. I don't know why anybody would think that he was from space. They would just think it was like but it works because everybody's like, oh, clear out of the way. He's crazy. He's a crazy duck alien. All right.
I think if a crazy duck alien like came to our planet and claimed he had space rabies and was going to try biting people, they'd run away from him or shoot him. You know,
I probably believe him.
But I think,
Beverly's not happy because everybody's clearing out. She's like, oh, real music lovers, huh? What a dive. They're back at their pad, and the duck, he shows up and he has the money, and the other girls in the band, they're kind of amused, and she's like, hiya, Ducky, and he says, hiya, Toots. Sex appeal. Some guys got it, some guys don't.
That was actually a pretty good line. Again, we're humanizing him more and kind of detracting from the idea that this is an alien duck that has absolutely no similarity to a human other than being bipedal and speaking English somehow.
Sorry about before, but you're the only friend I got. And Tim Robbins is here with the pizza, and he says he's here to watch the girls undress. I think he's trying to be like be slick and funny, but he just kind of comes off as like a creeper.
Kind of a Porky sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and he looks
was big in the 80s.
He looks over at Beverly, and he's like, I don't know who's more desperate for dates, you or me.
He is. I mean, really.
Yeah.
If
Robbins
is trying to go after a duck, it's still him.
Robbins goes off on some dumb tangent about ancient ducks being worshipped by Samoans. Doesn't make a lot of sense. He gives the girls their money though.
Yeah.
I think it's just the highlight that he's a goof. Howard gives them their money, and he tells me fire the manager. Tim Robbins steals one of his feathers because he's kind of a putz
and a weirdo.
He says, I'm about to unravel the mystery of your arrival. And his pride is hurt. And Beverly says, we'll go home, Ducky. They go back to her pad, and Howard is playing the piano and activates the drum machine. And he kind of starts rocking out. And he starts going to town on the synth. And he's like, oh, just a little tune I never finished. I had a group in high school, Howard and the Heartbreakers.
Kind of a callback there.
Yeah. Yeah, then he says, I've given up trying to assimilate, although I have developed a greater appreciation for the female version of the human anatomy. And it's kind of this is kind of going into maybe the creepiest scene of the movie.
Yeah, this is where I got really kind of squicked rewatching it. I thought this is uncomfortable.
Let's watch David Letterman. And he says, maybe it's not a man you should be looking for. And she says, you think I might find happiness in the animal kingdom? Well, love's strange. You might as well give it a try. She's into it. He acts like he was just joking. But was he, though?
Well, in the comics, it's a thing.
I just can't resist. I can't resist your intense animal magnetism. And his hair sticks up. And he's like, whoops, because, he has an yeah, you know what that means.
Yeah, it's very,
yes,
very, very subtle.
Keep his feathers down.
She tries to get naked, and he's like, oh, I've got a headache. And she's like, I got the aspirin. But then she is like, oh, Howard, I was just kidding. No, it's really weird. That's very science guys, they all just barge in, all the scientist dudes. And
just out of nowhere.
Yeah, they just burst in, and one of them says, this relationship defies all the laws of nature. And
they're not
she's
wrong.
I have to agree.
Yeah. We're just friends. Who the hell are they? It is Dr. Walter Jennings, one of the main characters here. They tested his feathers.
Played by Jeffrey Jones.
Yes.
He had a bit of a ignoble end in show business that we won't go into, but
yeah.
He was great in this movie. Like, good God.
Yeah. Wasn't he in
Everybody
Ravenous? Wasn't he in Ravenous? Megiddo, did you ever see Ravenous?
That one I have missed, actually.
No, it's awesome.
I haven't.
I'll have to check it out at some point.
Howard says, on my planet, we never say die, we say kill, because he's very angry. And Dr. Jennings, who's the legit scientist man, says, listen to me, small visitor, and I can explain how you got here. Because he's in charge of an astrophysics lab. And they were doing an experiment measuring gases around Alpha Centauri when they lost control of the laser spectroscope. And he says, you must have been caught up in a massive energy inversion in the lab that night. And they saw a single feather fall. But they weren't aware that he landed in that alley a few miles away. And they want to send him home. And all I have to do is Howard wants them to send him home. And he just says, all we got to reverse it. And he says, if we can generate a strong enough hypercharge. It's a lot of science kind of speak going on here.
I do kind of want to mention, this is where things kind of break down. They start talking about lasers as technology that they're using and what actually brought him to Earth. This is something that's kind of interesting because using a laser to go to even the nearest of other stars, we're talking years before it would reach the other system and then years to come back. So the quote ping would be several years. We're probably looking 10, 15 years before it would even reach another planet.
Well, there's
kind of just their version of Technobabble, I think. Nonsense.
It's just hand waving, but
crap.
But it's funny that they use lasers as their explanation for how he got there.
Well, it's Lucasfilm. They're into lasers.
This is true, even though nothing is lasers in the Star Wars stuff.
It's just kind of a catch-all. How they do laser and
that's all they have.
Lasers did it.
In Star Wars. Like, they don't have photon torpedoes or whatever.
Laser swords.
Tim Robbins now says, don't listen to them, Howard. I've got you booked for AM Cleveland because he wants to be famous. But legitimate scientist guy says, if we did send him back, we could establish a permanent link between our planets. And you are about to make history for a second time, my little friend.
Very noble goal.
Yeah, Jennings seems like a good dude, for a scientist. He seems like
for an 80s scientist, really, he's a good guy.
Yeah. Like Tim Robbins is more of the kind of mad scientist kind of archetype, or he tries to be, but
he's Jerry Lewis.
Yeah.
He's the ridiculously ignorant yet optimistic kind of character.
There is a scene somewhere in there. I can't remember where it is, but like Howard says "oi" and Beverly says "vey" or vice versa, and it's just all right. Cool.
That was not that much earlier than this. I think it was. I'm trying to remember. I think it was during the fight scene.
Yeah,
or just after it.
Tim Robbins has a lame line about how he could have been a contender. And Howard says, I'm not a sentimental guy. And Beverly says, no, you were born from a pretty hard-boiled egg because he's a duck. Howard is kind of sad. He doesn't want to leave Beverly.
If hard-boiled, he wouldn't be born, So
that's a fair point.
That's true. They're going to Dynatechnics. The alarms are going off. And he's like, oh, my eyes. It exploded again. It was terrible. We have no right to tamper with the universe. And Howard's like, this does not bode well.
And that is a very 80s scientist line, too.
Everybody's running around. There's a giant laser thing, has sparks coming out of it. And they're like, where's Dr. Jennings? Dr. Jennings caught the full force of the blast. And he's gone. What if we brought down something else this time? Oh, no, that's not good. The feds are here. They want Howard. They keep calling him a thing.
Yeah.
And Howard says, I've had enough. I want to see my lawyer. And they laugh at him, but Howard's going to sue. And they're like, hey, get the duck suit off this guy, off this nut. And Howard's like, you perverts.
Yeah,
Lieutenant, there's no zipper. Yeah, they did.
It was interesting.
He's like, I'd like to have a word with those so-called scientists out there. Yeah, but they're like, nope, you're going to go play sitting duck in a jail cell. What's the charge, sir? Illegal alien.
Yeah, that was just terrible.
Up
to that point, it was like, okay, cool. But that joke was just, good God.
There's low-hanging fruit, and then there's that joke was on the ground already.
Howard finds a cigar and he starts a fire. Beverly steals the cop's gun, and he says, "Give her the keys, Flatfoot." And the duck gets away. And okay, I want this guy. The suspect is 3 foot 1 inches tall. 3'2", thank you.
The cops in this movie are pretty Keystone,
Yeah,
they're kind of like those guys in the Ed Wood movies,
mm-hmm.
kind of like that.
Howard is he's extremely dangerous. Shoot to kill. They run into Dr. Jennings. He's not doing good. He's looking kind of sick. The laser spectroscope malfunctioned again. There is a tremendous explosion. I must have blacked out. These experiments were unauthorized. They're probably going to blame me, as they probably should.
Yeah.
They escape, and he's like, what's wrong with me? I don't have a gate key. You have a foot, don't you? So step on it. And they blow through the fence.
Actually, kind of interesting to note, the gate key kind of sounds like Keymaster and...
Well, Jennings, he's kind of a Gozer type kind of thing going on here, where he's basically possessed.
I feel like there's a connection there. There must have been some kind of cross-contamination with the writers between the two movies, because some of the humor in this does feel a little reminiscent of Ghostbusters in terms of the levity that they do and the kind of outside of the genre feel that they were giving to some of the movie, because it's a weird mix in terms of how the movie is portrayed for the genre.
Because you got the weird supernatural alien element, and you got the goofy dipshit humor. But yeah, they like every movie or a lot of comedies back then really tried to ape Ghostbusters' success. But
yeah,
I mean, this one didn't succeed. So I love it though.
Okay.
Oh, same.
Jennings says, you got to understand, I'm telling you, I saw something. And he kind of goes off. He's speaking like in cryptos, like speak now. He's like, the evil has landed. The world is in great danger. And they say, well, it certainly is when you're driving, because there's a joke like there's a punchline like every 10 seconds in this movie.
And
Yeah,
they're
we need a
just
lot of
accelerating it.
issues.
What's that, Jason?
Oh, like this thing would be full of like drum fills, Badoom Tish.
Yeah.
Just
there's something inside of me gnawing at my guts. What's wrong with me? What did you have for lunch? Yeah, it's
exactly.
The pain. It's like I'm transforming inside. I'm afraid I'm about to become something else. Oh, great, like a sex change or something.
That was an interesting thing to add in.
Yeah. Again, like, kind of belies the who's this movie for,
Something is growing inside of me. It's superseding all of my internal organs. We'll stop by a bathroom. There's like 4 or 5 just rapid fire, really, really bad jokes here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
that's
is
why we love it.
Yeah, it's admirable in a way. The end of the world is coming, and I will be the cause of it. They stop just before going into a diner. And Jennings like, oh, I'm dead. Thank you.
Yes.
Cajun sushi. I made a note of that.
That is such a weird. I mean,
there's like cowboy music playing, but all the staff have on like ninja headbands.
Yeah, they had like geese or something, maybe. Yeah.
I feel like
I thought that was
trying
cool.
to go for the most weird, off the wall thing that they could think of. Let's combine Cajun food and sushi.
Yeah, it's like they pulled it out of a hat, like everything else in this movie.
It kind of does, yeah.
I appreciated it.
I'm not Jennings anymore. The transformation is complete. I am now something else.
I'm not Jennings anymore.
There we go. You're in charge of doing the Jennings voice now, because I can't do the whatever his name is.
Can't do the growly voice.
They go in. Uh-oh, this is why I hate the night shift. I'm sorry, but we don't allow pets on the premises. Have a heart. It's my seeing eye duck, or he.
It was so bad.
And
once again, reverting.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's like nothing, no problem. Even though that kind of thing with the ADA wasn't a thing until the 2000s, really.
Howard calls for a waitress. It's this crazy hippie lady. Your kid's costume is really radical. Jennings is like, I no longer need human food. You're about to witness the end of the world, or the end of the old world and the birth of the new.
I no longer need human food.
Yeah, he's really kind of Rick Moranis, Ghostbusters, whichever one he was, Keymaster, like the end is coming, the doomsayer type thing. I wish I could quote it, but I can't.
Everybody's really bored with him, and I think the hippie lady's like, "Hey, is he like a TV evangelist or something?" Okay. He says, "I told you, bird brain." Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jason.
Oh, I was gonna say, Jeffrey. Okay, I didn't want to go into the Jeffrey Jones thing, but yeah, TV evangelist did bad things. Like Jeffrey Jones did bad things. Okay, let's move.
Oh God. I didn't make that connection, but I'm glad you did. He is not Jennings anymore. He was now one of the dark overlords of the universe. From the Nexus
of Sominus.
Which is actually a really cool name.
It so is.
It's kind of a black metal name.
It really kind of took a shift there in the third act. There was this really dark shift that they went for.
Yeah, it was just all these like kind of duck puns and like weird sexual innuendos, and it's like, okay, let's bring in the world destroying universe like ending terror. And it's like the Dark Overlord, like that whole thing is real kind of Lovecraftian, I think, like, dark beast from the outer void that will consume our essences and just wreck shit like universally.
Well, he lets them know that
a duck.
It's the region of demons to which we Dark Overlords were exiled eons ago. So yeah, they're demons, and they were exiled. And tonight, the laser beam released me from that region of demons. This is a small universe.
And I like that they don't over-explain it. I think that was a really good choice.
Yeah, you don't want to get bogged down in that kind of thing.
Yeah, because it's not necessary. It's just part of the comedy of the show.
Yeah.
He has disguised his true form because it would be considered hideous and revolting here.
He's not wrong.
One thing that's kind of funny is when Jennings is possessed by the Dark Overlord of the Nexus of Somnus, he still like cracks shitty puns.
Yes.
Like in that guise. Like, and it's just like, okay. And he's kind of like he's tagging along. I mean, he wrecked the diner, he destroys all this shit, but he's just kind of hanging out with these people in this duck, kind of, I will destroy the universe, all this crap. But he's
super good humored.
Yeah, he's just going along with their dumb duck puns and stuff.
Speaking of duck puns, they bring Howard eggs, and he's like, get the eggs out of here.
Which again is this, and I think in this case it's a little more appropriate just because he doesn't realize that they're not duck eggs, that they're chicken eggs, of course. So it's different species, but at the same time, that'd be like bringing, chimpanzee meat to a human.
Yeah.
So,
Jennings is still going off about how this will be the extinction of all living life forms. And his eyes start to glow, and he starts blowing up ketchup and mustard. And he's like, my powers are growing.
By the way, this is a good point to start really looking at the incredible ability of ILM to make even this movie. The special effects were amazing for its time. Even the non-practical ones.
They're state of the art.
Yeah, the glows, the lightning bolts, the glowing eyes, all of it was so much better than you expect out of, say, a B movie from the 80s.
He has the code key for the laser periscope. Howard grabs it and he's shocked. And Jennings now, he's starting to look kind of like a zombie. And he goes off with the grim speak some more. Nothing human will remain here. Nothing duck will remain here either. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of hillbillies show up because it's the 80s. Yeah. He's a ventriloquist. Say something, dummy. You're a dead duck. And they grab the key and they're like, what is this, the key to your duckmobile? And he reminds them that he is a master of quack foo. And he hits one of them, then he starts running away. And he finds a bunch of pies, and he's throwing pies, Three Stooges style. They're like, I'm going to get you, you dumb duck. And he swings in the lights.
Throwing a little slapstick there.
Jennings says, an evil you can't imagine is about to engulf the earth. And the waitress says, oh, no, we have fights in here all the time. It ain't no thing.
I kind of like that. That was
yeah.
That was kind of cool.
Just kind of the expected biker bar, truck stop sort of. Yeah, we get fights all the time. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
At the Cajun sushi parlor.
Yeah, the completely random drew from a hat name.
He's like, hey, Jennings, I can use some help here, buddy. The mob captures Howard the Duck. And Beverly says, hey, that's my boyfriend. And they all look at her disgusted, as they should be. They're going to kill Howard. They start tying him up, and they start throwing lettuce on him. They don't take off his clothes first, though. You would think that they would,
You would think that would be like the first step. Before plucking and trying to roast. And the whole thing that they're going to roast him with his feathers on. No, you never do that.
Any last
I think
words?
they're just bloodthirsty savages and want to murder him, not necessarily.
Yeah.
Eat him.
They're bad dudes.
Crazy.
They're seasoning them. They got like some pepper, I guess. And he's like, hey, you don't want to get my friend angry. And they're like, why? Because he's one of the dark overlords of the universe. Jennings, he's glowing now. He is glowing in the dark. Or in the light, as it were. He must have eaten the chili.
Such a bad joke, but it works for this movie.
Release the small waterfowl and bring me the code key, Howard.
Bring me the code key.
Some guy says it sounds like a bunch of bull pokey to him, and Jennings shoots a Hadouken at him. It looks like a knife.
Dragon Ball Z.
He uses his powers to pick up a knife, and he starts cutting down all the lights, and he sets Howard free for some reason.
His motivations were starting to get a little fuzzy at this point.
Well, he says if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen, because he.
Yeah, there's that Dark Overlord pun stuff.
It's closing time. They take the code key, and everybody's running away, and Jennings is blowing everything up. To which Howard says, "They get the point, Jennings." At this point, I wrote down, this movie is very aware of how stupid it is.
Yeah. They clearly knew that they were not making a straight up action adventure comic book movie. They knew that this was it's going to live off of comedy alone.
They start doing the duck walk, kind of like I'm sorry, what's that, Jason?
Oh, I was going to say the comic book really does also have the absurdist quality, and like it's really satirical. And so, I mean, this movie like really picks up the tone of the comic book like quite well as far as like the few issues I've read.
Yeah, I feel like they did a really good job capturing the feel of the comics. It was never, obviously, an anthropomorphic duck is not going to be a serious character in an action comic book, but throwing him into a movie, I think Lucas and the entire team involved, I think they did a really good job capturing the comic.
All right, they start doing the Chuck Berry duck walk because there's a duck minute thing going on here, and they try to leave without Jennings, but he locks them in, and Jennings levitates Howard, and Beverly says, "Howard, get down from there," and Howard says, "Like I'm doing this on purpose." This is kind of like the dialogue is kind of like meant for children almost. It's very
as you mentioned, PG.
Yeah. I will now bring down the other dark overlords. And he dumps Howard on the floor, and Howard's knocked out, maybe dead. We don't even know. You filthy scumbucket. But Jennings isn't having it. He just kidnaps Beverly. Howard gets up, and Jennings blows up the kitchen again for good measure.
It's all good.
Yeah, they hop in a semi-truck, and he's making these funny noises. They try to run over Howard.
I do kind of wonder... Like all the people that Jennings or the Dark Overlord Hadouken with those energy blasts, like I wonder if he croaked them, like if they killed him, or if they recovered. They're just knocked out.
They're really quiet about that.
I'm gonna go with no, and I'll tell you why when we're done here.
Okay,
sure.
They take off. They think she thinks Howard's dead, and Jennings says that he needs her body. Dark overlords cannot exist on this planet unless they grow inside a human body. She is disgusting. Or she's disgusted. I'm sorry. She's not disgusting. He's disgusting, and she's disgusted. He needs energy, so he kind of sticks his tongue out, and it's like this kind of long, like weird
Cronenberg.
Very body horror.
Yeah.
And he sticks it in the car lighter, and he starts powering up.
Also very weird, but we see more of that later.
The police are there now, and they're questioning the hippie lady. And she's like, I thought it was a kid, but then I realized, bam, Halloween isn't until next month. Tim Robbins is arrested.
As he should be.
Yeah. Howard's disguised as a farm animal statue. And he's like, Jenny kidnapped Beverly. He's some kind of monster. He's going to bring more of his buddies. He's got big plans, like taking over the earth. Jennings just jumps out the front window of the cop car because of the, as you said, Garlock, the very keystone quality the cops have in this movie. They run off through a fence. And he's like, hey, let's steal a cop car. Oh, don't you think that'd be a little conspicuous? Which is true. So they find an airplane. And which Howard says, if God had intended us to fly, he wouldn't have taken away our wings.
That
like
was
that
an
line.
interesting, that was a very interesting line. And the choice of this kind of powered glider sort of thing was obviously the very 80s, but it was fitting, especially for this flightless duck.
No doubt, no doubt. Time goes by. Beverly and Jennings they're going to a nuclear power plant.
Because every town in the 80s has one of those.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, yeah, of course.
This is like hours later, and they finally spot the duck. They're in the warehouse next door, and they're about to take off. And there's a cool theme song that starts that kind of sounds like the Airwolf theme. And I did some digging, and the film score was written by John Barry, although some of it was replaced by material composed by Sylvester Levay. Most notably, this scene where Howard and Phil fly the ultralight. They basically just is it the Airwolf theme or just kind of like a takeoff, like a Airwolf B-side kind of?
I figure it's a pastiche, you know.
Yeah, it's basically in the same line, but it's modified for the movie.
To those who don't know, Airwolf was a really sweet 80s series about a helicopter, and it has the raddest theme song ever.
And the best helicopter ever.
It didn't have Ernest Borgnine in it?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen any Airwolf.
Yeah. I'd have to rewatch at least a few episodes before I could comment.
The police are after them. They want this duck dead or alive. Somehow they know that he's going to the power plant, Jennings, and they're after him.
Because the plot needs them to.
Yeah, exactly. Jennings wanders around doing a tour of the nuclear power plant, and he kind of looks like a zombie and nobody cares. He blows up some glass, and a gate comes down. He blows it up too, and he walks into this glowing nuclear reactor, and he absorbs the power. Beverly gets untied, but Jennings shows up glowing, says he feels much better. And then we get maybe the centerpiece of the movie, the airplane scene. And this kind of...
Honestly, the airplane scene to me in Howard the Duck, it's like the fight scene in They Live. It's way, way longer than it needs to be, but it was entertaining all throughout.
Well, you know, it's kind of like the chainsaw chase scene and Chainsaw Massacre we did last week, Garlock.
Yeah.
It's kind of the it's the
it's really
over long but essential.
Yeah, it has to be that long because that's kind of the joke.
Find your instincts, find your birdness, fly, says Tim Robbins. The police are after them, and this is action-packed. The police hit a truck.
The errors of the police in these scenes is just perfect.
Howard, he lands the plane on top of a van. Great landing, Howard, but this isn't going to get us to the lab. You said to follow my instinct. This is my nesting instinct. Okay. There is a giant banner that says duck on it for some kind of festival, and Howard flies the plane through the duck banner because he's a duck. Get it? They fly by duck hunters, and he knocks them out. And
another
he
callback.
Death from the skies to all duck hunters. Tora, 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 vengeance is mine. And a very jubilant duck flies by. You might get the...
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
You get the impression that this duck very much appreciates what Howard is doing here. It's kind of
it's a very celebratory flyover.
We're back to Jennings now. His hair is now white.
And very thin.
He gets pulled over by the cop. He says, "Show me your license, Jack." "I have no license. I am not Jack." And then he just blows the cop up. The cop shoots at him.
I like
he
that.
starts blowing up.
Not Jack.
I am not Jack.
He blows up all the cop cars. There's explosions. Everything explodes and it stops at the truck for some reason. Jennings says smog inspection because he has a lot of jokes. They have
Yeah.
in the realm of the demons, they have a lot of bad puns apparently.
The intensity at this point is just turn up to 10. It's just like just crazy shit.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's pun. Maybe that's what hell is like, just pun after pun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like all the explosions and all the crap, you know.
Yeah.
The
Action fun.
The fuel hose is busted. The rudder is wasted. Basically, we're dying here, Howard. And Tim Robbins, very much in line with his character from this whole movie, he says, "I'm bailing out." And Howard says, "No, you're not. You're going to go up there and fix this lawnmower now." And he fixes it, but then he falls, and Tim Robbins is now hanging upside down. And he's like, "Hey, I did a loop-de-loop. I'm getting good at this." And we cut back, and Tim Robbins is getting drowned because Howard is goofing off.
As well as should be.
Yes.
This is no time for water sports. And he's going to go strangle Howard because Howard is being so flippant with his well-being.
By the way, phrasing.
Jennings now, he is super powered, and we can see that because he's carrying Beverly under one arm, caveman style. The police are still chasing Filsey and Howard. Or was it Billsy? Filsey?
I can't remember.
Tim Robbins.
Yeah.
Filsey.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
I think that's the first time we actually mentioned his character name, but yeah, Filsey.
He says, "Don't shoot. I'm an innocent hostage." He's a duck terrorist, which isn't.
Yeah,
which is kind of
he just shows his cowardly instincts, and he's just like, yeah, Filsey is pretty much superfluous to any kind of help that they might have, except for fixing that one thing where he fixed the thing on the glider, but he's pretty much useless the entire movie.
Howard may be a duck, but Filsey's a chicken. I apologize.
Right. Welcome back, Filsey. And he says, "It's great to be back, Howard." Okay. Plane loses its wing, and it's now basically a car, and it looks to be going 30 miles an hour. It's going very slow, but Filsey's still like, "Hey, slow down."
It's actually going pretty impressively fast for something with that tiny little prop on it.
Yeah.
Relax. He tries to throttle it, and it breaks, and they go into a big pool of water, and surprise, Howard cannot swim.
Oh, the irony.
They break into the place, and Howard says that no duck is an island, and if fate sent me here to save Earth, then Howard the Duck is ready to fight because he's a hero.
He has taken the mantle.
Jennings has her hooked up to the laser, and they're like, "Oh no, he's starting the spectroscope," which is like the science guy sounding thing. We got to go find a weapon, and they go looking for a laser, and they go into the Defense Research Department. And Phil, he starts putting numbers in, but Howard just kind of kicks the door open because he's a man of the street. They find.
Yeah, I love that scene. Like he just uses his quack food to just kick a door down of this like heavily guarded, like
this little 60-pound duck man.
Yeah.
Something that Jennings had to use like his lasers earlier, but Howard just uses his fist because he's a man's duck, or a duck. He's a duck's duck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jennings activates the laser. Nexus of he starts talking about the nexus of somnus. Anybody know what somnus means?
Something to do with sleep, I think.
Let me see here. The definition.
Nexus is a cool word.
The ancient Roman god of sleep. Yeah,
Yep.
a son of night and brother of death. Ooh, look, that's very.
That's cool. That's cool.
The Roman version of Morpheus, basically.
Okay.
Yeah,
Philly,
like Jennings is pretty much trying to impregnate Bev with his brothers, I guess.
Yeah, as one does when you're a Dark Overlord.
Yeah.
This laser was developed for the army. Oh, sorry, was that Garlock?
Oh, because they can't exist in without a human host, except
Right.
They don't
When they
later
do.
on.
Isn't this also the plot of Conan the Destroyer with was it Olivia Diabo?
That's the plot of a lot of
Yeah,
things.
yeah. They're gonna bring some weird horn thing. Like, I can't.
As we mentioned before, it's the plot of Ghostbusters.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's the 80s. If you have a big scary monster at the end of your movie, you have to have a hot chick. And the hot chick is like the altar in which you summon the yeah, so it's kind of like
even Alien pulled it.
It's kind of like the Levian summoning the demon, where you use the female altar, I guess.
Yeah.
The laser stuck to this go-kart, and Howard's like, "Is this stick shift or automatic?" Jennings is now growing spines on his back. Howard hits the wrong button, and they lose control of the cart. Excuse me. And I believe is it Beverly who says, "Run, Howard, he's in a bad mood." And Jennings says, "Get out of there, duck," as if duck is like an epithet or something. And he says, "I'm proud of it," because he's very proud of being a duck.
He's a duck supremacist.
Yeah. Yes.
He's a white duck too.
Oh my goodness. Jennings Hadoukens Filzy, but he blocks it like he has like a satellite dish, and he blocks the Hadouken.
Yeah.
It's very kind of a flimsy.
It worked. Why not?
Yeah, it was like your typical kind of G.I. Joe cartoon show, like laser blocking thing. Like, let me grab a mirror.
Yeah.
Sure, you know.
Filzy, you saved my life. But Filzy is like kind of not goofy. He's even more Jerry Lewis now. He's like kind of cross-eyed.
As the more evil he gets, the funnier he gets.
No. I mean, this is Filzy here. Tim Robbins. Yeah.
The more evil.
Jennings unleashes super breath, much like Superman does, and he's blowing.
I'm sure it stank too.
Well, of course, they say talk about bad breath, and Howard crashes. But Howard then he says, "Now it's my turn," and he turns on the laser. And Jennings just wanders out in front of him like a dumbass because the plot requires it.
The plot requires it.
Dark Overlord, I want you. Jennings spits acid. Yeah. Prepare to eat beak. Jennings is kind of charging up like to do a Hadouken, but Howard charges him and with the go-kart, and he blasts the laser. And the laser is more powerful than Jennings' eye beams. And there's a giant explosion.
And keep in mind, this was after he supercharged himself from a nuclear power plant.
So it's a pretty badass laser. The laser's legit, man. It's legit.
R&D. Their R&D don't fuck around.
No doubt. They think Howard's dead, but you kind of hear him go, "Oh, man." Beverly is thrilled that he's alive. And he says, "I need this like I need another tail." Jennings is human again.
I always wondered about that because, like, when it got taken over by the Dark Overlord, he was liquefying his organs. Like, he was totally, like, destroying his body. And he soaked up all this nuclear energy and shit. And then, like, he leaves and he's like, "Oh, I'm fine."
Yeah. Suddenly, because they were making it very clear, especially in the early transformation stages, that he was done for. In fact, even as he's trying to download his brothers into Leah Thompson, he makes it clear that she's going to be overwritten, that she is just a temporary vessel and going to be destroyed. But
what Jennings also says that he's dying. Remember earlier in the movie, he was like, "Oh, I'm going to die. Like, I'm dead. I'm dead." So
I'm dead before the thing takes over completely.
So either contradictory or just didn't understand it.
Yeah, I'm going to go with they didn't put that much thought into it, I guess. You thought that's
plot.
The evil Wyoming. Jennings seemed like an okay dude. He wasn't, or a jerk.
Yeah.
Other than him committing these crazy experiments without anybody knowing about it and unleashing Cthulhu.
He's a benevolent mad scientist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not a bad guy.
He's just accidental.
The evil isn't inside of me anymore. It's loose. The Dark Lord is still here. I say we get Beverly and get out of here. Filzy and Beverly are bickering, and Howard tells them to turn around. Filzy falls and is knocked out.
Again.
Jennings says, "My God, yeah." He's had several concussions now. A big monster shows up, and when I saw this monster when I was a kid, I was very afraid of it. It's a very well done, scary monster.
I'd say the Dark
its usual
Overlord.
great job.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. It really looks like some Phil Tippett type thing, or Ray Harryhausen even. But it's
Yeah.
ILM all the way. But yeah, you kind of see like a lot of influence, I'd say, from the old like Ray Harryhausen stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It kind of looks like
just
a weird
totally
crab.
grotesque and just nasty looking.
It's like a crab demon kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it has like teeth within faces, and it's just fucking nasty. It's really scary.
It shoots a laser at Filzy.
Fourth grade.
Yeah. A PG movie with that scary of a monster in it.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
It says Howard going somewhere, and it tentacles his leg. And it uses his other tentacle to activate the laser. Fires up the laser in 4 minutes till arrival. It does this weird thing where it zaps Beverly and Filzy with a green ray, and they're like kind of frozen, and they're like, they can't move. It's very
just kind of power out of nowhere, but
yeah, it's a new. He has super breath. He has laser. He's basically Superman or something. He's still very Superman in crab demon form.
I think the freeze thing was sort of like a Gozer's thing that she did to the Ghostbusters at the very end.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then die, and just kind of paralysis, maybe like Starscream's null rays or something.
They just really like Ghostbusters.
Yeah, clearly.
Jennings throws Howard a saw, and he says, "Slice salami," and cuts off the tentacle.
Pretty disgusting, like lots of kind of green blood and shit right there.
Yeah, very
kind of intense for PG.
Yeah, let's do our PG gore moment. Gotta have
Lose something. Alien specimens will arrive in laboratory in 3 minutes. Howard has the go-kart now. Is getting lasered, but he runs over the demon's toe. The
demon hurts it, a little bit, because it's like like hopping on it a bit.
The demon lasers Filzy and Beverly again, and they start fading away. And I can only assume because somebody thought that was cool in Back to the Future.
Makes sense.
I really want to know what the hell that was. Like, I mean, maybe like
was he trying to send them to his where the prison was?
Yeah, that's
like where the Dark Overlords came from.
He has some very unusual powers that don't quite make a whole lot of sense, but they do in 80s movie speak.
This is true.
Demon lasers again, they're fading away, and he says, "Puny little duck." But he shoots him with the purple laser and disintegrates him. And Filzy and Beverly phase back into existence. And Howard the Duck does a Tarzan yell.
And which makes me wonder, was it a lower form of duck that played Tarzan on his world?
We'll never know. We'll never know.
Sadly.
Well, I mean, Tarzan was an aristocrat, like that got just raised by apes. He wasn't like descended from apes.
There's more coming down the machine, Howard. You got to destroy it, blast it, but he'll never get home. And Howard says goodbye, Duck World, and he picks up the laser and he shoots the laser as the demons are on their way down. And it blows up in spectacular fashion. The demons are sent back or descended. Yeah.
Save the universe.
End of the hero's journey.
Howard is now at the bottom of a big pile of debris. Beverly is afraid he is dead. And she says, "I don't know where you are now, but I hope you're happier there. This world didn't treat you very good, but you saved it, didn't you? But he's alive." And then he says, he kind of goes into the demon voice. And he's like, "I am not Howard anymore." And they all start shitting themselves. And then he's like, "Oh, all the smoke, it's murder on the sinuses," because he's a
I love the fact
guy.
that he just tries to troll them. Like that's
no doubt.
Really kind of in touch with his character. I think that like after all this shit happens, like he saves the world. He sacrifices his ability to get back to his home place. They're oh my god, he's dead. And he fucking trolls them with
he's Duckpool.
He's infected. Yeah.
All right. The movie ends and they're all playing a concert. and they're playing the Howard the Duck theme song.
And it should be noted it's a packed, huge arena.
Yes.
It's not some shitty little hole in the ground. It's not the chain link fence place. It's like the Moda Center, or the Cleveland version of the Moda Center.
Yeah, and that is
jumped ahead.
And that is because, as she says, I'd like to dedicate the song to our new manager. And it's Howard the Duck. He's the new manager. They're now successful. And they all have new outfits, and they're getting paid. And Howard is having the time of his life. Yeah, and then for some reason, they're like, Howard, you have to do this prop thing. And he releases the wrong prop. And Howard is now being lifted onto the stage. And, oh, no, he's on the stage now. Now what?
Yeah, completely unplanned.
Have him jerking the curtains.
But they give him a guitar, and he's there just in time to play his sixth solo, and he starts rocking out. And he does the
guitar.
Nice.
Pulls off a Marty McFly.
He does the Chuck Berry duck walk again, and he plays a solo with his duck bill. And he's like, a little purple haze for you all. He starts shaking his ass. The girls go crazy. And the movie ends with him chanting his name. And he says, not bad for a duck from outer space. You were great, Ducky. And I think, and then they kind of allude to some things at the end. Hey, can you guys get this going for a second? I gotta do a little run real quick.
Sure.
All right.
Once you get back, I gotta run real quick too. So yeah,
I can toss out some trivia about the comic books or stuff like that.
Oh yeah, go for it. I had a few when I was a kid. My brothers used to collect a ton of comic books, and I had, I'd say, maybe 20 Howard the Duck issues when I was growing up that I'd go through. They weren't my primary enjoyment, but because I'd mostly go with superhero stuff, but it was always interesting to go through those and see the comedy in the comics.
Yeah, they're definitely fun. So Howard the Duck was created by Steve Gerber. First appearance, Adventure into Fear, number 19. And when the Howard the Duck comic started, it was pretty immensely popular, but Steve Gerber himself was fired from the series because he couldn't make deadlines. And they had a replacement writer for 4 issues. And then they canceled the comic book. They started out the magazine that, I had props for. And that ran like 9 issues. And then it just went into kind of legal limbo. And what happened was in the early 80s, Steve Gerber tried to sue Marvel Comics over the ownership of Howard the Duck. But he was under a work for hire contract, so he didn't have any ground. But what he did, there was this comic book called Destroyer Duck, which he wrote, and it was a benefit comic for this lawsuit against Marvel. And so Destroyer Duck was under the premise of this hardcore, like Rambo type duck named Duke Duck. His best friend, called the Little Guy, who's really supposed to be Howard the Duck, has been enslaved and eventually killed by this evil corporation that's an obvious, thing on Marvel Comics. And that was before Marvel had, Disney ownership or whatever. So, Destroyer Duck ran 7 issues, and then that was also canceled because Steve Gerber couldn't make deadlines.
Wow.
And then later on, but they settled the lawsuit with Marvel, but he did not get ownership of the character. In the mid 90s, around 96, and Gerber would come back occasionally to work on Howard the Duck character, and he always, get pissed off and leave again. But in the mid 90s, there was a crossover issue of it was like Marvel Team Up or Spider-Man Team Up number 5, where Spider-Man teamed up with Howard the Duck, and simultaneously there was a Destroyer Duck Savage Dragon crossover, and they were going to do like a sort of just unofficial crossover between those 2 books, where Spider-Man and Howard the Duck meet up in the dark alley with Destroyer Duck and the Savage Dragon. So what happened was Gerber got pissed off at Marvel yet again because they commissioned some more Howard the Duck appearances that weren't going to be written by him, and he was just like, this sucks. So Eric Larson suggested a thing that they could do for the crossover. So what happened is in the Marvel version, they just kind of meet up in a dark alley. It's like you see like silhouettes of Savage Dragon and Destroyer Duck, and then everybody goes their own way. But in the other version, the Destroyer Duck Savage Dragon crossover, there's whoever the bad guy was made a bunch of Howard the Duck and Beverly clones, and they're just like tons of them everywhere. And then Spider-Man took like one of the clones and one of the clones of Beverly back to the Marvel universe. And according to this comic, the real Howard the Duck escaped to the Image universe along with Beverly, and he dyed his feathers green and went into witness protection and became Leonard the Duck. So in a way, Steve Gerber was able to get his creation back, and like he sent back just a soulless automaton for the Marvel stuff. Of course, Steve Gerber did go and write more Howard the Duck for Marvel after that because he needed a paycheck or whatever. But I thought that was really cool. And that's
yeah. Sorry for ducking out on you guys.
That's all right.
I'm
gonna do the same just in a second here.
Yeah, so
it's quite a history.
So nobody goes to jail after they just murdered like how many police officers? And caused like what's that?
Diplomatic immunity for Howard.
What about Jennings and all these other guys? They beat up cops. They stole their guns. They destroyed cars. They destroyed the plane.
Okay, in that case, it's just plot armor.
Yeah, whatever.
All right, be right back.
Yeah, sure thing. How you doing, energy-wise, Jason?
Oh, good. Yeah, I relayed the history of Destroyer Duck and the Marvel lawsuit and all that stuff while you were gone. So
nice, man. Appreciate
watch it when you come back.
I appreciate the filibuster, so I can use the restroom. I drink way too much Powerade as per usual.
I'm used to working just shit jobs where I got to stand on my feet for 10 hours straight and not piss ever. So I can usually figure it out. Remember Pizza Hut? That was fun.
Yeah, those were the good old days. So Howard the Duck, man. What was I going to say?
Man, like I haven't seen it in about 10 years, and I was pretty impressed with it. Like endless like shitty duck puns aside, like, and I think those were kind of like essential to the charm of the movie anyway, because you're like
yeah, it's a very singular kind of movie. I couldn't imagine it ever being made again or anything like it ever being made again. It's very excuse me, it's a one-off that could only have happened in the 80s, I think.
Yeah, they might make another Howard the Duck movie to put it in with the Marvel cave shit, but I mean, I don't think it could be nearly as good. And I mean, they probably would try and play it more straight, which I think would
I think right. I think people would take it way too seriously. There'd be
the Quack Fu scene would probably be a little bit more intense and maybe cool looking, but I mean, he'd obviously be CG.
The writer of the movie, of the comic, How the Duck guy you're talking about, what was his name?
Steve Gerber.
What does he do now?
Creator. He's dead. He doesn't do anything. He
died. Oh well, that's depressing.
Yeah, he had like cystic fibrosis, I think, and he passed away probably about 13 years ago. But yeah, Steve Gerber did a run on the Defenders. He wrote She-Hulk for a little while.
I remember seeing about that.
Yeah, Scott Dorian says. Go ahead, Jason.
Towards the end of his career, he did some Vertigo stuff, but he could never do the deadlines. Like, he just had problems. That was my cat. He just had problems with deadlines. So he did this thing called Nevada, where, so in an issue of Howard the Duck, number 16, I'm just going like lore trivia, whatever. But in an issue of Howard the Duck, number 16, it was a Deadline Doom issue where it was just basically an essay by Steve Gerber about how he couldn't meet his deadlines about doing Howard the Duck, which had a bunch of pinups in it. And one of those pinups was a dancing girl and her ostrich. And like 20 years after that, for DC Vertigo, the mature readers line, he did a book called Nevada, which was actually about that dancing girl and her ostrich. And he was going to do a second one, but he couldn't do the deadline, so it didn't happen.
Oh, that's too bad. So his illness prevented him from meeting the deadlines, or was it just
No, he could never meet deadlines. In fact, when he was really sick and like pretty much on his deathbed in the hospital, he was like furiously finishing scripts for a Dr. Fate series for DC, but he didn't finish those before he passed away. So he just really had problems with deadlines.
Well, that's too bad.
But yeah.
Well, yeah. I think yeah, guys. I think that kind of covers the Howard the Duck, don't you think? That was
pretty well. Oh, I just wanted to give a shout out. I just saw we got a comment from Scott. Thank you for jumping in, Scott.
Yes, sir. Thank you for acknowledging my terrible joke.
Scott's actually my former roommate from back in
nice
04, 05. I think I've told you some stories about him. He is.
Yeah, we got some characters in here tonight.
If I could actually get him set up, but I can't. He's too far away. But if I could get him set up, he would be a really good one to have added to our group here.
Well, it's good to know. Thank you, Mr. Dorian. All right, guys.
You can't see, but he's definitely funny.
I'm going to blast the outro. You ready? The intro that was going to be the intro is now the outro, and we'll see if it works. And I think that's a wrap, guys. Thank you very much. Yeah.
My pleasure.
Have a great one.
Yep.